Hey, Cindy.
Hi, John. If you could turn off your camera and your mic for now.
Okay.
Thank you. We're just welcoming the public in, and we'll be ready to start in a short little while. David,
Yes.
have you been able to promote?
I'm not seeing anything in the way of 791-400 among. I don't know if his phone number, if he's doing it via call-in, I don't know if there's a phone number associated with it, but I'm not seeing anything in the way of the code provided.
Yes, let me chat with you. Did you get my chat?
I did. I'm going to try to promote.
Perfect. Thank you.
I am unable to promote call-in users to a panelist. I can let him speak though.
Okay. David, is it working? I don't see.
No, I can let him talk when that is appropriate in the meeting. Like there's just a button that's an allowed to talk button. So if we want him to talk now, I can do that.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Sorry. Yes, I wasn't sure if there was. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, David. Okay, can you unmute as well? His number.
He has to do that himself. I believe *6 is how you unmute yourself on the phone.
Six. I don't know if this is going to work. Sorry, everyone, we're having some technical difficulties. So we'll hopefully be able to get the commissioner to welcome everybody in a little bit, but in the meantime, just hold on for 2 minutes. Okay, we're sorry about this, everyone. Oh, it looks like he joined for just a second. We're just having a little bit of technical difficulties on our end. Please hold on.
Hi, Cindy, can you hear me?
Yes, Commissioner, we can hear you. We can see your camera's not pointed at your face, unfortunately.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
I'm in transit, so I'm not
Okay,
going to make myself visible. So
that's
I'm ready
fine.
when you are.
Yeah, we've been trying to get you to be able to join us. So this is great. Thank you so much, Commissioner. If you don't mind, you can say a few welcoming remarks to everyone. We've got about 180 attendees who are listening in.
So excellent, excellent. So thank you for your patience, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm Maurice Cox, and I'm the Commissioner of Planning and Development. On behalf of Mayor Lightfoot, I just want to welcome you to this community webinar to review 6 exciting proposals that are being considered for city support through the LaSalle Reimagined initiative. So with this initiative, the city is working to revitalize LaSalleStreet's underutilized commercial spaces with residential and neighborhood-oriented uses that reflect, I think, the contemporary needs and opportunities for mixed-use growth and vibrancy. The 6 proposals were submitted in response to a city invitation for proposals last fall. And this meeting is your opportunity to meet the developers and see their ideas for adding hundreds of housing units along the corridor. As you likely know, LaSalle Reimagined is seeking to make the heart of the loop more resilient and dynamic on behalf of the entire city. Also more diverse due to the integration of affordable apartments within each proposal. There's currently more than 5 million square feet of vacant space in corridor buildings that could be repurposed for new uses, along with many underutilized bank halls and lobby spaces that make the street so iconic, unique, and full of potential. The vacancy rates along LaSalle are the highest in the city. But on a positive note, loop workers are returning to the offices more quickly than the national average. And the loop population actually grew by approximately 4,000 residents since the 2020 census. So this is a great time for the strategy to add momentum and to make a substantial impact. To ensure the impact is also equitable, the city is mandating that at least 30% of the new units are leased at affordable levels to be eligible for the tax increment financing or other forms of city financial assistance. Collectively, the 6 proposals represent more than $1 billion in potential investment involving about 2.3 million square feet of space. That's a lot of potential construction. That also means that we've got a lot to cover tonight. Given Alderman Riley being unable to join us tonight, I'll mention that he has been fully briefed on all the proposals and the broader LaSalle Reimagined initiative itself, and that we hope to make a decision on which proposals to advance in the coming weeks. And so without further ado, I'll pass it over to my colleague, Marisa Navarra, Commissioner of Housing, and to share a few words with you. But thank you so much for attending tonight, and we'll be watching and listening.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. I've actually asked Brian to fill in for Commissioner Navarra. Brian, can you
yes, please
turn on your video?
Sure.
Thanks.
So good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Brian Essenberg, Managing Deputy Commissioner for the Department of Housing on behalf of Commissioner Navarro, who sends her welcomes and thank you. The mission of DOH is to really expand access and choice for residents and protect their rights to quality homes that are affordable, safe, and healthy. LaSalle Reimagined is more than just having units in a central business district. This is an opportunity to invest in the equitable distribution of affordable units in our city and recognize that housing affordability begins with housing choice. At the heart of LaSalle Reimagined is the conversion of unused spaces into used spaces. It's about finding sustainable solutions for Chicago's increasing housing demands, particularly as we learn about and navigate the long-term impacts the pandemic has had on urban centers. And the impacts of COVID-19 pandemic can be acutely felt on LaSalle Street, where high rises that were once the backdrop to commercial economic activity now lay empty, leaving millions of square feet of underutilized office space. With this first round, we believe we'll be able to meet our initial aspiration to assist in bringing at least 1,000 new residential units to this corridor. And with our affordable housing mandates, this means a minimum of 300 affordable housing units, an incredible jump from the current 2 affordable housing units in the central business district. So thank you to all the teams for their thoughtful proposals, and thank you to our elected leaders for allowing us to explore this new way to create affordability. And with that, I want to thank those who have taken the time out of their day to join us in discussing the proposals for LaSalle Reimagined, and I look forward to discussions and outcomes. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brian. Okay, we'll go to the next slide, please. We are very excited to have everyone here today. And so we sorry about starting a little bit late, but we're completed our welcoming remarks, and we'll go over very quickly our LaSalle Street Reimagined overview. And then we'll have 6 of the teams present their proposals. They'll take 10 minutes each. And then we'll have an approximately half an hour session of Q&A from the public. So please use the Q&A button in the Zoom function to provide questions. If you can go to the next slide, please. Thanks. So again, this Zoom webinar is being recorded, and we'll also make the recording available on our LaSalle Street webpage. If you go to www.Chicago.gov, LaSalle Street, this is also where you'll see the presentation decks from each of the teams, as well as a high-level summary of the proposals. When you do submit a question in the QA function, please limit your questions to content that has not been addressed during the presentations. And also questions can be responded from the teams either in writing during the meeting or verbally after all the presentations are made. And it'd be helpful if you have a question for a specific team or project, if you can specify which project or team you're asking the question to. Next slide, please. So of course, we're in the process of reviewing and evaluating these 6 adaptive reuse proposals, which add up to over $1 billion in total project costs and convert almost 2.5 million square feet of vacant office space in this corridor. And when you add up all of the 6 proposals, it's over 2,000 new residential units, which would offer 670 affordable units. We're hoping to select the finalist teams by the end of March. And in addition to this IFP initiative, we also have the Small Business Improvement Fund grant, which is the first type of grant offered in the Central Business District. And City Council already approved the $5 million in grant funds, and up to $300,000 in funds would be awarded to eligible businesses. We expect to roll out the application later this fall. And we're also working closely with the Department of Transportation for improving the public realm. We've already secured the funding for a visioning process, as well as the engineering assessment has already been started by a consultant team. So that's very exciting. Next slide, please. So here we have the first team. I'll let the Golub team start their presentation, and we're going to limit it to 10 minutes.
Thank you, Cindy. I'm Lee Golub, principal with Golub and Company, and thank you to Commissioner Cox, the whole Department of Planning, Department of Housing, and I saw Deanna Landmarks. Thank you for allowing us to make this presentation. We are presenting on 30 North LaSalle Street. Next, please. We believe 30 North LaSalle is in a very unique position to get this project going quickly. We have currently an office building, a 1 million square foot office building, which has vacant space on the low rise into the mid rise, and we currently can convert about 432,000 square feet of office space into 432 apartments, which 30% or 130 of those apartments would be affordable units at 60% of AMI. In addition, we feel we can reinvigorate the LaSalle Street corridor around both corners of the building. The building sits prominently at Washington and LaSalle. And you'll see this in the following slides. I'm going to be very brief, as I like to talk a lot, and there's a time frame here. So next, please. As I mentioned earlier, speed to market for us is unmatched. We have 12 contiguous floors of vacant space. This project is not a landmark project where most of the others in this initiative are. We feel we can start demolition on this space in the summertime and actually can get this project going and have units available for move-in in the first quarter of 2025. As you'll see on future slides, we'll be adding a new residential entrance on Washington Street, upgrading the public plazas with new landscaping, public art, taking the hardscape into softscape. The retail space, which is currently there, will be leased still with the existing tenants. Einstein Bagels will be moved over to one of the new retail spaces. We will be creating 14,500 square feet of open space and outdoor amenity space, 9,000 square feet in the public plazas, including planters and a new dog run, and 5,500 square feet of space on the 11th floor, which you'll see later in an amenity terrace. And in addition to that, we have 10,600 square feet of indoor space with the 11th floor terrace with fitness lounges, private party room, and on the second floor, we will create some co-working space, media, and private party room. Next, please. Our team is made up of Golub & Company as the developer. This property is currently in receivership, and the lender, Corebridge, which is an extension of AIG Life Insurance Company, expects to get title to the property sometime mid to late summer, we hope. Our architect working on this project with us is SCB. We've done many projects with them based here in Chicago and offices throughout the country. And our landscape architect is Confluence, who we've also done many projects with in the city of Chicago. Next, please. As I said earlier, our team, we feel, has the most experience of actually executing the concept of adaptive reuse of office space into residential space. The most recent project which we have finished is the Tribune Tower, which we did with SCB as well. We also own and have been owned Century Tower down in the Loop, which was a renovation from adaptive reuse of office space into rental units as well. In San Francisco, SCB worked on a very large project a few years ago, one of the first ones in San Francisco, taking a large office building and converting the entire project into residential rental units. Next, please. I'm going to hand it off to our managing principal of SCB, Chris Pemberton.
Great. Thanks, Lee. Yes, it's Chris Pemberton. I'm president of SCB, and I'm going to run you through some of the design slides. So appreciate the opportunity to speak to you all tonight. These are just a couple of views that you can see. As Lee mentioned, we're sited at Washington and LaSalle Street, and this is the state of the hardscape today. And I hope, as you'll see from our renderings, there's a number of improvements that we are proposing. So if you go to the next slide, please. A lot of data on here, but in a summary, you can see the yellow color in the building drawing. About half of the building at the base is being converted into apartments. And then the blue color represents the portions which are going to remain as office. And, you know, some of the gross square footages and things are about 420,000 square feet of office space will be converted into residential, and it's largely vacant, as Lee had mentioned currently. The majority of the retail program is going to remain down at the street level, and we'll see that better in some of the coming slides. So if we go to the next, please. These are the elevations of the building that were included. There's a couple of bubbles on there that just show some of the changes that are going to be made to the facades, but the building will look largely the same as it does today, with the exceptions of all the improvements towards the base. Next. And this is just more of the flat elevations. If you go to the next one, please. These are the plans. So you can see on the right-hand side is a typical residential plan. We're proposing a mixture of studios and 1s and 2 bedrooms. These are conventional units, meaning that a bedroom would have access to a window and natural daylight. And the floor lays out relatively well for that. If you go to the next. And this is a nice image to spend a little bit of time on. You can see, if you start with your eye down at the base of the building, you can see the improvements and the adding of softscape and activation public art. We'll see a little bit more of that in a couple of slides coming. And then towards the top, you can see the silver element that's projecting from the building. This is some space where we're proposing to have an activated amenity space. And having done this on a couple of projects, these spaces are wonderful in that they're close enough to the street that they really do add to the pedestrian level activity, making a nice connection. You know that people live here. It's not too high up. So we're very excited about this. That's our amenity space. Next. Here you can see from that amenity space, there's a couple of renderings that are included of what it will be like when you're standing in that space looking up LaSalle. But as I say, it will be nice in how it will engage with the street. Go to the next, please. Here's a flat elevation. Again, largely unchanged, the facades above the ground floor. We are adding new glass, insulated glass, to meet the energy code requirements. And for the comfort and acoustic comfort of the residents. We're also adding operable windows at the lower floors, but in general, the building will look very similar. At the base, we're making all kinds of improvements just in terms of activating the streetscape with public art and with softscape, as you can see. This is looking directly at the residential entrance on Washington Street. Go to the next. Here's our plan. So Washington is at the top of the street, plan north. LaSalle is on the right-hand side, and you can see the retail spaces. And what's really interesting here is that the office residents really won't know, and the office tenants, I should say, won't really know that anything's happened. Their lobby stays in the same place. Their access to the elevators is the same. And we're creating an entirely new residential lobby, but it's from Washington Street. It's flanked by retail, so we're proposing to have our Einstein tenant will move over to the small retail near our dog run on the left-hand side of the plan. The bank will remain in the corner, and the Starbucks will remain between the office lobby and the corner. Also importantly, everyone should know that the loading and the service aspects will be very similar to how they are today. So there's nothing changing there other than we're enhancing some of the inner workings of the building to add the residential component. Next, please. This is a nice view from the streetscape. You can see again the art that's proposed for the corner, the addition of trees. There are some egress stairs that come up from the basement that we will eliminate so that we can have the extra plantings that you see here. Next, please. And then finally, just a couple of images of precedents for the landscape. And bottom right, you can see the seating with the sort of illuminated stone. And this will just give you a sense of the change from what is a very bleak hardscape to something much more residential and hospitality focused and comfortable for everybody walking past. Next. I'm going to hand back to Lee here.
So our public benefits slide, again, we believe we have very substantial public benefits here. We will definitely meet and exceed all of the goals of LaSalleStreet Imagined of the 26 and 6 on the MBE, WBE. We are committing to 30 and 10 respectively. And on a more than $170 million project, that's a very large amount of work directed to MBE and WBEs. As Chris noted earlier, our sustainability plan is significant and multifaceted, as noted on this slide and as reflected on prior slides. We do anticipate creating approximately 350 new construction jobs, and retain existing jobs on site. And I think we're getting close to the end, but I like to say, we will continue to work. We work with the South Side Experience Incubator St. Francis de Sales High School Work Study Program, and we expect to include them into our project at 30 North LaSalle. Again, we are committed to providing 30% affordable housing on site at 60% of AMI, and believe that this project has the speed to market is a great asset. And again, thank you very much. I think we've run out of time if I'm looking at my stopwatch correctly. Or I'll tell you that we have a $172 million project, and our ask from the city on the LaSalleStreet TIF is a $75 million commitment. Next. I guess I can keep going. Again, our time Our time to market is, we think, unmatched. We can start demo, later this summer, early fall, and start construction, we believe, first quarter at the latest of next year, and have the first move-ins in the first quarter of January 25 with stabilization December 25. So we believe we can get real folks and people living in the building as quickly as any other project that's part of this process. And we thank you again for your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Lee and Chris. Okay, next up, we have the Monroe Residences and Hotel, and this is a team partnership between the Prime Group and Capri Interests. So
Thank you,
thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. I'm Mike Reschke. I'm Chairman and CEO of the Prime Group. And I'd also like to take a moment and thank the Commissioner and Cindy and the Housing Commissioner for inviting us here today. LaSalleStreet is a very special place in my heart. We've been investing and developing in downtown Chicago for over 4 decades. We've been very active in the city during that time, and especially on LaSalleStreet. And we're quite pleased to participate in this program. We feel we're a little bit of the father of the rebirth of LaSalleStreet, starting 15 years ago when we took Daniel Burnham's last historic landmark that he completed before he passed away in the early 1900s, and brought a 610 key luxury JW Marriott hotel to 208 South LaSalle, which became an award-winning project and really sparked the revitalization of a 24/7 culture in downtown Chicago by bringing hotels back to downtown versus the other submarkets like the Michigan Avenue market. And after we completed and stimulated the market with the JW, there's been almost 30 new hotels and about over 100 restaurants that have followed in the 15 years after the JW Marriott opened. So we see our project that we're going to present today, we actually have 2 projects as a continuation of our effort and our commitment to the city, but more importantly to LaSalleStreet, which I believe is just, it's literally a veritable museum of historic landmarks. There's no other stretch of urban America within 7 blocks that has as many historic landmarks as LaSalle has. And we're very pleased to be part of that. So Monroe Residences and Hotel is the former BMO headquarters that we acquired last summer. The entire building consists of 3 towers. You can see on the far right on this slide, 115 South LaSalle, which was completed in 1974. The center building was the original historic headquarters for Harris Bank, was completed in 1911. And the building on the left was completed in 1958, was the first expansion of
Mike,
Harris
the
Bank.
slides are not advancing. There you go.
Oh, okay. And as we said, the center building, our project is focused on the 2 buildings on the left. The building on the right we acquired and is where the state is relocating from the Thompson Center, which we also acquired, and we're in the process of redeveloping it on behalf of Google, which is going to be relocating in a few years, 5,000 well-paid high-tech employees 4 blocks away from this location. This project is, here's a bit of a historic context. You can see the original historic Harris Bank headquarters in the historic photo on the right, and on the image on the left is a rendering of the original bank headquarters, which we're going to be preserving. This is a very exciting project. It's sort of a true live, work, play. It is a mixed-use proposal that we submitted to the city. It's not just the conversion of office space to apartments, but it's also the conversion of office space to another luxury hotel in the base of the building. And we're activating at the very top of the building. We'll be reactivating the original Monroe Club on the top floor, which you can see with the terrace and the top tower on the left side, and reactivating that as an amenity for the hotel and for the apartment residents as well, and activating the roof with a swimming pool, outdoor dining facility, and what was a former mechanical penthouse will become a new restaurant facility at the top of the building. The key to the project is, and the creative part of being able to adaptively reuse the center building, which has very few windows and very large, deep floor plates, was the construction of a new 60-foot by 70-foot atrium in the middle of the building. Does not affect any of the facades around the building, but allows us to have apartments and hotel rooms that will have a natural light and be open, and also natural ventilation. Next, please. This project, no, next, please. Go back, please. Could you go back a slide? Well, any event, we'll cover it, but this project is a joint venture between my company, the Prime Group, and Capri Interests, a company founded by my friend and partner, Quentin Primo, who I'd like to introduce at the moment. Quentin?
Thank you, Mike. And in observance of time, I just want to say that it was very, very important for us as the two lead sponsors of the project that minority and women-owned participation was a high note of what we're attempting to do. And, you know, so often minority and women-owned firms do not participate in the value creation process. We've made great strides with respect to contracting, but we're getting there on professional services. But true value creation is created in ownership. And that's why Mike and I have formed a 50-50 partnership to really drive the point home that ownership is very, very, very important. In addition to contracting, professional services, ownership is critically important to realize what we believe to be an equitable development vision for the city and specifically for this project. So with that, let me turn it back over to you, Mike.
Thank you, Quinn. Next, please. As I mentioned earlier, we've had a very active investment development career here in Chicago. I founded the company in 1981. You know, some of the projects that we're well known for is 77 West Wacker, which we developed in 1990. It seems like yesterday, but it was my first high rise when I was a youngster. And still today, I think is one of the more beautiful additions to the skyline of Chicago. Citadel Center, 131 South Dearborn. And we've been very prolific in the hospitality area as well, as I mentioned, with the JW Marriott in 2010, the Residence Inn on the corner of LaSalle and Madison was another adaptive reuse of a beautiful historic landmark, 1 block from the location of BMO headquarters. So we have quite extensive experience in not only developing and investing in Chicago, but also converting historic buildings into other more productive uses for many generations to come. Next, please. As we mentioned, this is a joint venture between between my company and Capri Interests. Our key consultants is Stantec, who we've worked with, and their predecessor, VOA, on other hotel projects in the city, Engineering Constantini, Klein Hoffman Structural, and level 1 low voltage, etc. Next slide, please. Location, we're literally in the heart of the financial district on the corner of Monroe and LaSalle. Next, please. The project consists of 349 apartments on the upper floors, 226 hotel keys on the lower 12 floors, underground parking for 130 cars. And we will have a beautiful, we're repurposing the mechanical floors in the middle of the building, a 2-story mechanical space into a 2-story world-class spa and fitness center, which will also have an indoor pool and lap pool and exercise studio rooms, golf simulators, and the like. We think it'll be one of the best health fitness facilities in the Central Loop. And then, of course, as I mentioned earlier, at the very top of the building, we'll be reopening the Monroe Club as an amenity for both the apartment residents and the hotel guests. Next, please. This just illustrates the current use of the building, which is primarily office, and the proposed use, which is hotel in the lower floors. With the entrance of the hotel will be through the historic lobby on Monroe, with the apartments above, also with an entrance on Monroe Street, adjacent to the hotel entrance. Next, please. Here's the existing historic lobby in the historic building in the center of the block. This lobby will be preserved and maintained and will function as the hotel lobby reception, as well as we're planning to open a new fine dining restaurant, 3 meal a day, with a bar and facility that will spill out onto the plaza on Monroe and offer significant, beautiful outdoor dining, and will activate that plaza area right on the corner of LaSalle and Monroe. Next, please. Again, just a cross section showing the building and the central atrium through the middle historic building. The mix of apartments, 182 studios, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, for a total of 349, 105 affordable units, 226 hotel rooms. And the hotel will be an extended stay hotel, large suites. We think there's additional demand based on our success with the Residence Inn a block away. We believe there's demand in the market for additional extended stay hotel. Next, please. Public benefits, 30% affordable housing. We're preserving what we believe one of the city's great landmarks. The project will create 400 construction jobs. We're committed to a minimum 26 and 6 in terms of inclusivity, and we expect to vastly exceed those numbers. And more importantly, unlike just a straight apartment building, the hotel component of our project will create over 200 permanent jobs. So not only 400 construction jobs, but 200 permanent jobs. And of course, sustainability, the buildings will all be gutted. We'll all have brand new state-of-the-art energy efficient energy systems, new windows in both buildings, energy efficient insulated glass, of course, with an operable pane. Next, please. Here's a really important key fact from a city standpoint, city-county standpoint. The public benefit includes significant state and municipal incremental revenue, primarily generated from the hotel, which alone will bring an estimated $5 million of additional tax receipts to the city, county, and state. And of course, our projected apartment taxes of about $1 million, for a total annual benefit of $6 million. Total project costs $295 million. That's allocated approximately $180 million to the apartments and $115 million to the hotel and the Monroe Club in the penthouse floor. Our ask is $40 million of TIF proceeds from the city to support the apartment project, as well as we expect to qualify for historic tax credits, as well as we apply for an allocation of tax exempt housing bonds for the apartment component of our project. Next, please. And here's just some representative sampling of studio 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom units. Our time frame is we're already into design and going through process. We own the building. We bought the building last summer. We have a few floors that are still occupied by BMO, the bank, but they'll be departing in the next year. So the building is not only owned by us, but it'll be free and clear of any tenancy. We expect to start construction in 12 months. And we're looking, including the hotel, a total construction period of 26 months. So we expect our first occupancies in early 26 and final completion and final full occupancy in the summer of 2026. Next one.
could, on the
Sure.
affordable units, it's very important that, yes, they will necessarily be on site, but there will be no difference in finishes or size or amenities as compared to affordable units as compared to the market rate units. And so we very much want to have them as equitable and as inclusive as possible. And that's been built into our program.
This quickly shows the layout of the upper floors. The 23rd floor there in the center, you can see the historic Monroe Club. And the roof, the activation of the roof deck with an outdoor pool and another restaurant facility up in the penthouse floor. Next, please. And I guess that's the end. So thank you very much. And welcome any questions at the end of everyone's presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike and Quentin. Okay, the next project, Emily, if you can forward it, is the field building at 135 South LaSalle. And this is a partnership between Riverside Investment and Development with M Trust Real Estate.
Okay. I'm John O'Donnell. I'm CEO of Riverside Investment and Development. And I'm here with a couple of colleagues today, Mike Potter and Tyler Lampke. We're also joined by Patrick Kiernan with AmTrust Properties. A little bit about our companies. Riverside Investment and Development has completed about 5 million square feet in the Chicago Loop since 2017. You know, we typically do large scale projects. The first 4 are in the Chicago area, and the last 2 are one's in Denver and one's in Charlotte. AmTrust is in New York based. We're Chicago based. AmTrust is New York based. They have 12 million square feet of commercial and residential projects among multiple markets, but over half of that is in the Chicago Loop. Next slide, please. We're also joined with Blue Star Properties as a partner in this transaction. Blue Star has a skill that we're lacking at Riverside. They experts at retail or retail, food and beverage, as well as entertainment. We think these 2 components are going to make 135 South LaSalle extremely special. On the left is Thalia Hall, a entertainment venue. Revival Food Hall is probably their most well-known food conveyance. And then the recently completed Morton Salt Shed, which opened last year. Next slide. We have a fully built out development team, which is illustrated right here. Next slide. A little bit about the location. This is dead center in the LaSalleStreet Revival District. Also, at 1.2 million rentable square feet. It's probably the biggest single modification of the building. I think more importantly than it being in the central loop, it's also central to some of these magnificent banking halls that few people even know exist. It'd be our goal to see that these are animated and used as cultural and retail venues as well. I know some people have that planned. I know we have a pretty intense retail development that we anticipate having. Next slide. Lastly, on the building, the building was originally the field building. It's an Art Deco building designed in the 1920s and completed in the early 30s. This is similar to the Board of Trade or Rockefeller Center in New York, has many of the same characteristics of that architecture. Also designed by one of the great architecture firms of Chicago, and it's a landmark in Chicago. I think one of the things most important about this is that there's 900,000 feet at the lower levels of this building that were vacated by Bank of America a few years ago and have not been re-tenanted. This provides a challenge and an opportunity. Obviously, it has to get refilled eventually, but it also allows us to move forward very rapidly because we have unencumbered floors by any leases. So there'll be large, quick movement in a large scale redevelopment. Next one. Next slide, please. Okay, Tyler Lamke is gonna take over a little bit on this.
Great. This is an elevation of the LaSalleStreet elevation of the building. So the building as planned and our project as planned will have the largest retail footprint on LaSalle, which will really serve as an anchor for activating LaSalleStreet. As John mentioned, Blue Star Properties has a very robust plan for that dynamic 3-story retail space that will really launch LaSalle's transition to a mixed-use neighborhood. One big thing to note here as well is you'll see there's a significant exterior and interior restoration plan that will be enacted as part of our project as well. Next slide. Oh, sorry, this slide. Go back one, please. The project itself will eliminate just over 750,000 square feet of vacancy, which accounts for a very large, substantial portion of the 5 million square feet of vacancy that Commissioner Cox brought up earlier. The project itself is also a shovel-ready, as John mentioned, but can be a catalyst almost immediately to the nearby office, retail, and residential uses that are around there. To the right here, this is a rendering of the future of the restoration as completed. One specific thing to note here is that our plan is to remove the 25th floor mechanical penthouses, which were added after the original design when air conditioning was put into this building. So we would be restoring these back to their original design as planned, and there will be 25,000 square feet of new open space on those terraces. Next slide. So these existing pictures really are showing the exquisite historic architecture, which is landmarked, and the full restoration of the building that will be going on here includes window replacement and then obviously restoration of the slide. These are existing pictures of the historic landmark interior spaces. Also have a significant investment plan for the restoration of these spaces, and then also the significant activation of the retail and event spaces that will be created. So this is 2 renderings of the future completed building, and what you're seeing here is showcasing the new lighting, streetscape, and activation of both the interior and exterior of the building, which is really planned to enhance the pedestrian experience not only inside the building, but outside the building as well. Next slide. And now I'm going to hand it over to Mike Potter, who's going to talk through the program of the building.
So what we have on this slide, the image to the right depicts the entirety of the building. As John had mentioned at the outset of the presentation here, Bank of America has vacated about 900,000 square feet of space, largely from level 25 down. However, the scope of the project that we've proposed for LaSalle Reimagined here is really largely confined to level 15 and below. So you see the areas that are depicted in orange is really the heart of the office to residential conversion, from which we expect to yield about 430 units in total. Level 3 and 4 will be repurposed from office into parking. We expect to yield about 180 stalls in total. We believe that parking is not only essential for the apartment rental above, but also critical to what we'll get into, which is, multi-level, 80,000 square foot retail and event activation that we have below. Next slide, please. This plan depicts the ground floor level, a very large expanse of space The defining feature of this area is really the main arcade, as it's referred to, which is some of the landmark space running between LaSalle and Clark Street, which is multi-level. So really special space that we want to reanimate. North of the main arcade, the areas depicted in yellow largely consist of new residential lobbies and other residential programming. And then south of the arcade, in the areas in pink, that's really the heart of the new ground level retail redevelopment that we'll be showing in the subsequent slides. Slide, please. As we've studied the loop extensively, one of the main challenges or perceived challenges for residential transition is the lack of a grocer. One of our primary objectives for this project is to be soliciting a grocer for some of the vast spaces that we have here. We believe that either on the ground level or spread across the lower level or up into level 2, we can secure a fresh market grocer concept in the range of 15 to 25,000 square feet. That will not only be a huge asset to our own project, but what we hope will be a key component of the residential transition more broadly for LaSalle Street and the Loop. Next slide, please. This is an image up on level 2. Again, very unique, expansive space that is currently vacated. This was all previously occupied by Bank of America. So what we have here is about 30,000 square feet in total. All of this actually is new space that we will have reprogrammed, largely we think for events and potentially the grocer that I mentioned on the slide previously. This space originally was designed and built as a bank hall or potential to convert to a bank hall. So there's some unique features at this space that allow for some dramatic, aspects. There's 16-foot floor-to-ceiling height, so quite a large volume of space. And there's also in the dead center, you can see there's 7,000 square foot column-free space. So for things like events, we think we can do some really unique programming here. Next slide, please. And then this is just an image of some of the vibrancy and activation that we hope to create here. This is a public space, an exciting space that is much needed on LaSalle Street corridor, as well as with the building. So this is something that is really unique with regards to our property relative to the buildings that have applied here. We think that we want to be a new anchor and neighborhood hub overall for social and cultural gatherings. Then we're going to hand it off on the next slide to Patrick Kearney with AmTrust.
Thanks, Mike. I'm going to start on the building's floor plate, and this is basically the bulk of the building is comprised of this 40,000 square foot floor plate. It's a unique 4-quadrant configuration, which is not conducive with what today's office users are looking for at all. It lacks sufficiency, large open lease spans. So, it's just not what office users are looking for. However, it actually works quite well for residential use. The desirable core to window depths are perfectly suited for residential. And really the recesses into the building, this floor plate starts on the 5th floor, allows for really unique abundancy of light and air, even on low-rise floors in the center of the urban core, which is truly unique. Our plan is to convert the base of the building, as Mike and Tyler pointed out, and convert a total of 430 apartment units in the building, 30% of which will be affordable, or 130 total units. Next slide. As John pointed out, the anchor tenant of this building vacated in 2021 and left a gaping 800,000 square foot plus hole in the building. Total vacancy in the building is about 1 million square feet. The beauty of our plan, as another developer pointed out, is we have 0 impediments to commencing construction of this project. We plan to start construction of this project within 12 months. And I think importantly, open this building in early 2025, which will provide a much needed near-term benefits to LaSalle Street. and really provide some vibrancy to the corridor, which is greatly needed. Next slide, please. The building and the scale of this project, and it's not just the 430 units, it's the parking, it's the retail, it's the base building activation, as previously pointed out, we believe provides unrivaled public benefits. It's also going to create a significant number of additional jobs during construction and beyond. We're going to meet or exceed the diversity, equity, and inclusion goals put forth by the city. And I think important to be said, without this TIF program, we don't believe there's going to be any residential units added to LaSalle Street in the near term. There certainly won't be, any affordable units being added to the urban core of the city adjacent to City Hall. And also very important is that the streetscape will not be activated. And without that streetscape and without a draw to LaSalle Street with an abundancy of cultural, social, retail, as well as day-to-day grocery use, et cetera, it'll never be a 24/7 thriving environment. So we think a project like this in the center of the corridor is essential to achieving those goals. I'm going to pass it back to John.
Thanks, Patrick. Without repeating what Patrick just said, I think the 80,000 square feet of retail is an essential element to really create a strong pedestrian movement along LaSalle Street. We also anticipate much of this to be cultural. The cultural space we anticipate in our pro forma to be given away essentially rent-free to any cultural institution that wants to use it. Our company, Riverside, has established relationships with about 8 different museums within the city with regard to a video art wall that we have at 150 North Riverside. They have provided us with a lot of content, and we've provided them with an ability to exhibit a number of their different things. We hope to use that to capture essentially an anchor for the space and to bring more tenancy to it, as well as what is needed, grocery stores needed for any residential neighborhood. And this really does create the neighborhood. Finally, I'd just like to say that, we have a number of financial institutions that we've worked with in the past have indicated strong interest to do this. And also, it should be known that both the lender and the owner of the existing building have taken a $200 million write-down to make this project economically feasible. And with that, I just want to thank you all for your time. And I'll turn it back over to Cindy.
Thank you so much, John and team. The next group is the Clark Adams Renewal, and it is the Celadon Partners and Blackwood Group development team.
Thank you, Cindy, and thank you to the City of Chicago, the Department of Planning and Development, and the Department of Housing, and to all of you for your time to consider our proposal for the Clark Adams Renewal at 105 West Adams. I'm Aaron Weisner of Celadon Partners, and I'm joined by our development partner, Rafael Hernandez of the Blackwood Group. We are part of a diverse and locally experienced team with a long and successful track record in the City of Chicago. We're excited to present our vision to you today for LaSalle Reimagined that will bring housing to the employee base that is actually in demand in the Loop. Now, a little bit about us. Next slide. Oh, next slide. Thank you. Celadon Partners is a Chicago-based developer that has developed 2,000 apartments, including 3 in historic properties such as this. We have won awards from Landmarks Illinois and from the Driehaus Foundation for this work. We've worked successfully with the Department of Planning and Development and the Department of Housing on several properties and are confident we can effectively work through their processes to begin the redevelopment soon. Next slide.
Thank you. Cindy, good afternoon, and thank you for having us. So the Blackwood Group is a 15-year-old company certified by the City of Chicago. Combined, Jose and myself have over 60 years of experience in construction and development work here in the city. Our team attests to Our teams attest to the product is a full renovation. Our latest project here that we've been working on is a renovation of 2 high-rise buildings in the city of Chicago, which includes a full interior and exterior renovations totaling 500 units. Our design partner, DesignBridge, also an MBE company, is a 27-year-old firm that has significant experience with historic preservation, residential multifamily housing, and affordable housing. They have an extensive portfolio of over 2,000 units of housing throughout the Chicagoland area.
Slide.
Next slide. The next one, Cindy, I'm sorry. Okay, so all together as a team, we're an established and proven team that is currently executing one of the Invest Southwest projects located in back of the yards called United Yards, which is in front of us here. This development will include over 100 units of affordable housing and 50,000 square feet of retail space. This project is scheduled for its groundbreaking in the spring of 2013, as shown in the slide above. Thank you.
Slide. We believe that ours is the ideal location for what we refer to as missing middle housing, targeting working individuals and families that want to live in high opportunity areas, but cannot afford the high rents and overall cost of living of other areas near downtown. Our rents are set to be accessible to public employees, essential workers, hospitality employees, and the entry-level and young employee base that would eagerly accept a high-quality apartment downtown. These are the types of units actually demanded in the downtown market, and that would benefit the long-term viability of the loop the most. While we are 75% affordable, those affordable rents are set at 60% of the area median income, which is achievable by the groups I just listed. We will offer high-quality management to make sure that these individuals and families receive the proper amenities and services so that they can thrive, but also so that we will be a good neighbor to the business owners and residents already in the area. As affordable housing developers, we are also formally committed to long-term ownership of the property. We will not be selling these properties to other interests in a few years and then not concerned about what happens to them in the long run, but rather we'll be committing to at least 30 years of stewardship and affordability for these properties. Next slide. We intend to develop 247 apartments in this building. That will include studios, 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units. These units will not have any project-based subsidy on them, such as Section 8. We are proposing 30,000 square feet of market rate quality community space for residents. Lastly, we will have 27,500 square feet of showcase retail space on the first and second levels that will be occupied by a local fresh foods grocer and a kitchen that will be an incredible asset to the loop. We hope to be able to disclose that business in the coming months. The concept, as you can see from our plans, is similar to the Italy development in River North. I do want to clarify that floors 3 through 10 are owned and operated by Club Quarters and are not a part of our plan at present. Next slide. Our property is right on the Federal Plaza and the ideal location for a live-work property. In addition to the thousands of jobs within walking distance of the property, schools, hospitals, and other necessary resources are all within 1.5 miles of the property. Our team is experienced in driving linkages for residents to services and resources to make sure that they receive the amenities necessary to live successfully in this community. Next slide.
Thank you, Aaron. So amongst all of the submissions, our building is in most need of attention and meets all of the city's high priority criteria. The office portion of the building is currently only 20% occupied and falling quickly, with no long-term viability in its current condition. Our proposal allows the opportunity to leverage the IFP and fully restore this historic building designed by the Burnham brothers and built in 1927. Our program will provide a complete historic exterior and interior renovation. Next slide. So we have a grand vision for this building. We foresee a new hub of residential and retail activation at the intersection of the Clark and Adams. But as equally important, we're fully thrilled as a Chicago-rooted team to be able to restore one of our city's iconic gems. Next slide. Our team has developed a thoughtful program, as you can see by the slide here, Plans and elevations are available for public consumption to the city. Due to time constraints, we'll move as quickly as possible for this portion of the presentation. Next slide. So the ground and second floor base plans shown above reflect common and retail spaces. Next slide. Typical floors 11 through 23 will reflect the mix of residential units that we're proposing. Next slide. And at level 24, show the fitness spaces, outdoor spaces, and multi-purpose spaces and other amenities. Next slide. As you can see here, a full cross-section of the elevation of the building itself. Again, the level of work placed in its initial programming is intentional. And with this in-depth understanding of the building, that we are able to effectively and accurately assess the needs of the Clark Adams building. This building is naturally cited by it's naturally stated for a residential conversion due to its natural daylight throughout its various elevations. Next slide, please. I want to emphasize here that our team is extremely well-versed and experienced, that understands the city policy objectives as it relates to affordable housing and long-term sustainability. Our team is committed to exceed the city's sustainability targets. Next slide, please. So currently, as far as the product timeline, our team has a written agreement of site control via lender sale agreement to acquire the Clark Adams building. We are proposing to acquire the building this summer and roll into a pre-development and entitlements this year into next, and start construction in the spring of 2024. Next slide, please.
As we noted earlier, we have spent a lot of time in this building to truly understand the capital needs, mechanical systems, and ultimate scope of work. Our design and intended construction teams were with us to verify these assumptions in detail. We structured our sources and uses to assure the lowest proposition of default with conservative rents and a scope of work that, while extensive, will ensure that this landmark will be maintained long into the future. With respect to our sources of capital, other than our request from the city, the rest of our capital stack is currently committed with letters of intent for over 60% of our sources from private investors and lenders. And now Raphael is going to give you a little bit of an overview of the benefits that will come from this investment. Next slide.
Thank you. So the economic impact of this project is substantial. Our proposal brings nearly $100 million of investment to the Clark Adams building. It will bring 185 units of affordable workforce housing to the downtown area, the most of any of the proposals. It will restore this deteriorating but iconic building, which overshadows Federal Plaza, securing its place for foreseeable future, once restored along its neighboring classical giants. It will create 300 union construction jobs and a minimum of 35 permanent jobs. In addition to this, our team is deeply rooted in the MNWE community. Our commitment to maximizing minority participation on all levels is inherent to who we are. Our proposal exemplifies the city's initiative to help revitalize the downtown area via innovative approaches that integrate live, work, mixed use, accessible and affordable developments, while promoting wealth, creating opportunities for firms of color.
Before we wrap up, and I would encourage you, we really did want to respect the 10-minute limit per team, so we did go quickly through our design and our program for this building, and I encourage the community and anyone else who's interested to go through the thoughtful plan that our design team put together. But in the interest of time, we are going to stick to the 10-minute limit. We want to leave you with 4 takeaways. First, we currently have a loan sale agreement and control this property. Second, this workforce and affordable focused development is exactly what this community needs. Third, we have never defaulted or given back a property and have a conservative plan that will deliver a long-term stable property for the Loop. And fourth and lastly, our team is experienced and diverse and is the exact right fit for this type of property. Thank you so much for your time tonight. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron and Raphael. And I do appreciate that you stuck to the 10-minute timeframe. The next team presenting is Maven Development Group. It's for the same building at 105 West Adams.
Thank you, Cindy. We would first like to thank the Department of Planning and Housing for the opportunity to present this evening. My name is Chet Condis, and I'm one of the consultants on the development team. Presenting with me is Greg Miller, who is a principal at 5T Development Partners, a co-developer in the project. Our team is Chicago-based with extensive experience with projects throughout Chicago and Illinois. Maven Development has completed 1,100 units in Chicago and has completed over $600 million in projects. Next slide, please. Our consultants include 33 Realty, Cogent, Fitzgerald Architects, O'Neill Construction, GMA Construction. Overall, our project experience includes adaptive reuse, affordable housing, private as well as public financing, including TIF and historic tax credits, leasing and property management, and purchasing of distressed assets. Next slide, please. Our team at Maven Development did a project that's very similar to what we have here in Chicago. It was a Rand Hotel. It was a project that is an office building, and it was converted to hospitality with 270 rooms. It's very similar in a lot of ways that the project had office tenants in it, and it was a significant adaptive reuse restoration project. The project overall won a number of awards in the community as well as within the industry. Next slide, please. If you take a look at the buildings, they were both built in the 20s. They were adaptive reuse. The project costs were very similar. They have similar exterior facade, Art Deco look. The Rand Hotel was finished in 2020. Next slide, please. And you can see from the interior, a complete renovation was done, as well as exterior with lighting. And there was a retractable roof done within the property as well. If we look at the project that we're speaking about this evening, it's 105 West Adams. It's located in downtown Chicago. As the previous presenter had said, this is a building that was built in the 1920s. And it's important to note that there's 4 condo units in this building. There's the office space that we're talking about, as well as ground floor retail. There is where the Club Quarters Hotel is. And also there is where the restaurant and bar is called Elephant and Castle. Next slide, please. If you look, the building during the 20s was built by the Burnham brothers. It was a neoclassical Art Deco building. And unfortunately now, next slide. In the 2020s, it's fallen into disrepair. It needs extensive work on the outside facade. The current occupancy is around 25% within the office space, so it's predominantly vacant. There's a lot of work also that needs to be done inside the property as well. The ground floor retail is currently vacant. The hotel at Club Quarters is still currently operating, as well as Elephant and Castle. Next slide, please. So our plan is to take the property and convert it to residential units. As I said earlier, the existing Club Quarters hotel is not included in our plan. And we feel that the highest and best use for this property is to do a residential adaptive reuse. And on the first floor, as we mentioned, there's a lobby and amenity space that we will plan to reinvigorate. Next slide, please. And as you enter in off of Clark Street, there is an existing lobby with a bank of elevators. On the north side is Club Quarters. And then Elephant and Castle, the bar, is to the west. So our plan here with the retail is to connect this first floor retail, the second floor amenity space, and use that for either restaurant or retail. And we make that connection with an escalator. And our goal here would be to provide grocers, potentially other small retailers or other food establishments on the ground floor. Next slide, please. And this would be the amenity space or retail space. Again, there's a plan here. As you look east, there's the plaza that you may be able to put a terrace over top of the entranceway or lobby on Clark Street. We would use this floor either for retail or potentially for amenity space for the residential tenants within the property. Next slide, please. And finally, on the top floor is the 24th floor. We would have additional amenity space available for tenants. We're also looking to add some outdoor space as well. And this would be the roof of the 23rd floor. So we'd have potentially patios up there or roof decks. Next slide, please. It's important to note that we are providing 127 affordable units. So our total plan here is 423 units. Our thoughts here are to have efficiency units, 1-bedrooms and 2-bedroom units. And it's important to note, as one of the previous presenters had said, is that the affordable units will have the same finishes as the market rate units. There will be similar unit mix, unit size, as well as they'll be well located, just like the other for-profit units. Next slide, please. From our standpoint, we have the total project costs are going to be $167 million. Again, as we had mentioned, this is a property that has significant need of repairs, both inside the building as well as outside. We are focusing to look a combination of private and public financing. Next slide, please. For us, our construction jobs are 650. We also plan to have some permanent jobs on site for maintaining the building, providing property management and asset management. There's probably going to be additional retail jobs, restaurant jobs, depending on what those tenants look like. And we'll have a better idea once we get to that point. But our thought, again, is to have a grocer come in there as well as some other retailers. We were looking to comply with the diversity of the team. We'll have a developer and contractor architect to meet all of the requirements of the city from a minority standpoint. We also expect to exceed those requirements for both MBE and WBE. On the sustainability side, we're looking to exceed the policy by going over 50 points with, as we said, we'll have some green roofs, landscaping, energy, and transportation. Next slide, please. From our standpoint, we have currently an agreement in place with the owner of the property, who's the borrower that purchased the property. So we plan to close that transaction once in the coming months. We also look to go through a full planning development process with the city. So with that said, we plan to start construction and demolition in late 2024. And we plan to have the project completed by 2026. And again, since this building is low occupancy, we will be able to achieve the results very quickly as far as getting to construction. We don't have to negotiate with having tenants move out of the property. So high level, we'll be able to move as quickly as the city is with regard to a timeline and getting through the approval process. We're not relying upon other federal income tax credits. Thank you. And let us know if you have any questions through the chat.
Thank you, Chet, and thank you to your team. Okay, last but not least is our project at the LaSalle Residences at 208 South LaSalle's, the Prime Group.
Thank you, Cindy, and pleased to be back with our second proposed project that we have applied for public assistance with the intent to convert the final piece of this wonderful building, which is the middle floors, into 280 residential apartment units. This is a building that we originally acquired back in 1996. And as I mentioned in our earlier presentation on the Monroe project, we initially converted the lower 12 floors of this Daniel Burnham building into the JW Marriott Hotel, which has its primary entrance on Adams Street, which is the north facade of the building. You're looking here in this photograph at the LaSalleStreet facade of the building, which is where the entrance today is to our new LaSalle Hotel in the upper floors of this building, and will also serve as the entrance for the LaSalle Residences. Next slide, please. The building again is located in the heart of the LaSalle Street Historic District, next adjacent to the Federal Reserve Bank, across the street from the Rookery. It is probably the most important block, in my opinion, in downtown Chicago. It's probably no doubt the most photographed block in the city, with the Board of Trade in the background, and the Federal Reserve Bank, our building, the Rookery building, and the like. On any given weekend, you'll find 5 to 10 wedding couples being photographed in the center of the street with the beautiful Board of Trade building as a backdrop. But this is a very special place in our city. Next slide. The history, a little bit of our corporate history I mentioned in the earlier presentation, so I won't repeat it. At this time, our architect on this project is the Lamar Johnson Collaborative in association with Lucien Lagrange Studios. Lucien was also the architect originally for the JW Marriott that we opened back in 2010. Next slide, please. Our experience, just to show you on LaSalle Street, of course, on the left-hand side, you can see the lobby of the JW Marriott, one of the ballrooms in the JW Marriott. In the middle, of course, is the entrance of the Residence Inn, which is the world's largest Residence Inn in the world, and is award-winning, and has won the global award within the Marriott Residence Inn brand 3 years in a row, which is unheard of in the Marriott system, for one property to win such an important global award 3 years in a row. Just a testament to what we did in this adaptive reuse of that historic building in terms of bringing a really productive, successful adaptive reuse to a beautiful historic building, which is what we're doing 2 blocks away here at 208 South LaSalle. Last summer, we opened up the LaSalle Hotel in this building in the upper floors, levels 18 through 22, 232 rooms. And so our vision for this part of LaSalle Street is we will have the LaSalle Hotel, which is already open and operating, and below it will be the LaSalle Residences. And then in the first project that we discussed earlier tonight, our intent is to have the Monroe Hotel in the lower floors of the building, with the Monroe Residences in the upper floor of the building. Again, I think we used this slide in the first presentation, just showing our investment over the years of both development and redevelopment projects in the heart of the city. Next, please. This building was completed in 1914, I believe. These are just some historic photos. It was the last building that Daniel Burnham designed before he passed away. Next, please. And this gives, I think, a good graphic illustration of the subdivision of the building. The red floors are the lower 12 floors, which was converted to the JW Marriott. The middle floors is the proposal that's we submitted with the city to convert those floors into 280 apartments. And the upper floors opened last summer as the new LaSalle Hotel. Here's some existing photos of the streetscape with the new LaSalle Hotel. The LaSalle residents will enjoy the same ground floor lobby. And thank you. This shows the ground floor, so you can understand the organization of the different uses in the building. You can see on the north is the entrance to the JW Marriott off of Adams Street, and then off of LaSalle Street on the east side of the building. You can see the lobby for the new LaSalle Hotel, which will also serve as the lobby for the LaSalle residences. Next slide, please. Here's just some of the uses, the management office, bike, dog run, bike storage, package room, mail room will be on the ground floor. And then and the residences will start on level 13 through level 17. We also intend, depending on the existing tenant's interest, whether they stay or not, it's an existing retail tenant in that retail space in the lower right-hand corner. Should they decide to relocate, we intend to convert that space to another bar, restaurant with some outdoor dining to add some vibrancy to LaSalle Street in this beautiful part of the city. Next. The property of 280 units on 5 floors, a mixture of studio, 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom units. Next slide, please. Here's the floor plate of the building. The building has a light court in the center, so it's extremely well suited for an adaptive reuse to residential with a double exterior window line. And you can see the different unit types ranging from studios to 2-bedroom and 1-bedroom units scattered throughout the floors. Next slide, please. You know, here are some prototype room layouts. You can see our studio unit, very efficient, very compact, but the finishes will be very high level, comparable to the high level of finishes that the LaSalle Hotel enjoys. Some more unit types. Here's some of our 2-bedrooms. We think the type F 2-bedroom, very efficient, 900 square foot 2-bedroom unit, especially for roommates who want to share with each with their own in-suite bathroom, double bowl lavatory, and a large central living room, kitchen with island. The building is very, very well, the floor plate works very well for its conversion to both residential and hotel use, obviously. Next. Project budget is $130 million. And our ask of the city was a modest 33 million of TIF proceeds, along with an allocation of tax exempt multifamily housing bonds. Thank you. Next. Public benefits, of course, preservation of another beautiful historic building, sustainability. We exceed the city's minimum requirements for, vastly exceed their minimum requirements for sustainability. Job creation, the project will create 240 construction jobs and an additional 15 permanent jobs related to the apartment operation. And we're, of course, committed to no less than 26.6 in terms of inclusion on the construction side. Next. Schedule is we own the building. We look to start construction towards the end of this year with about an 18 to 20 month construction cycle. We hope to have units open probably 26, 27 months from today. Next slide, please. And that's the end of our presentation, I believe. Thank you and welcome any questions. Thank you for having me.
so much, Mike, and thank you to the Prime Group. Thank you to all the teams. I know this was a lot of work to put together the responses, and we're very excited about all the proposals we are continuing to review. I'm going to go through and moderate some of the questions. It looks like the teams are also, we've been trying to answer them as the presentations have been ongoing, and from the city side as well as from each of the teams. So we don't have that many outstanding questions, and I'm going to try to lump them together and also not duplicate or voice just some of the opinions that have been expressed. So there has been some questions for each of the teams. And this was not included in the presentation. So if you could each take some time, and maybe we'll go in reverse order of the presenters, to just explain if your project will include some bike racks or secure bicycle parking. So Mike, if you could speak to both your proposals on that issue.
Yes, yeah, both projects have large bike storage facilities included in our amenity package, as well as dog washing facilities and dog run facilities.
Great, thank you. And then we'll go to Maven Development Group. Chet. Okay, we'll go to Celadon Partners and Blackwood Group.
I'm sorry, Cindy, do you mind repeating the question?
Sure. The question was if you plan to have bike racks and secure bike parking to limit the car culture of transportation.
We do, yes, it's in our lobby space floor plan for the Clark Adams building. And it's part of our transit-oriented development requirement that we would need to meet for the city. I believe the plan is for 125 bike rack spots within the ground floor there.
Great.
It's in our ground floor plan.
Okay, thanks, Aaron. And then Riverside and AmTrust team, if you could explain if you have that.
Yes, so we have an extensive bike plan. So including on the third and fourth floor of the parking. There was a question earlier about how we're setting back the parking from the windows to be able to make that an area that appears as office currently and will remain as such. And in that area as well, we're going to have parking for approximately 400 plus bikes, which would satisfy not only the residents, but then also be able to achieve the grocery tenant, retail tenant, event space, and the remaining office of the building.
Great, thank you. And then Lee Golub's team.
Yeah, hi, it's Chris Pemberton from SEB. Yes, we will have bike parking as well. We don't have any car parking, and that was important to us that we're not really making any modifications or adding cars, but we will have 100 bike stalls, and we certainly have a lot of area available in the building where that could be increased, but that is certainly part of the plan to have that within a secure space in the building.
Great, thanks, Chris. Okay, then I think we had a question generally about whether or not all of these projects are for rental apartments versus condo apartments. And my understanding is they are all rental apartments. So if that is incorrect, please raise your hand and chime in, but that I can answer that for everybody. In the because I know we're over time, so I just want to try to make it as efficient as possible. And then there was a question about for Chris for the project at 30 North LaSalle. Is there a roof plan that would be accessible to tenants?
Yeah, let me take that one. Right now, we're subdividing the building into residential on the lower half and office on the upper half. And we're trying to figure out how to get outdoor space up on the roof or on the top floor of the building that could be available for both tenants. At this moment, right now, we don't have it. That takes more study. In our idea of creating the outdoor space, indoor space on the 11th floor, we thought was a good amenity for the residents in the apartments. But we are still early on and looking at that concept as well because of elevatoring to get up to the top, try to figure that out.
Thanks, Lee. Okay, and there were a few comments about the grocery stores being proposed in a couple of the projects. And so I'm going to ask each of the teams who are proposing a grocery store in their ground floor spaces or second floor spaces, if this is where they are and who would the tenant be, if you're able to share, and is this something that is, question was, is this a guarantee? Because it's definitely a necessary use in the loop.
Yes, I'm happy to answer that question since we were one of the grocery options. So we've had detailed conversations with that, or we've had conversations with a grocer and hot food provider that is a locally owned business in Chicago. But due to the public nature of this and the fact that we have not been formally selected with this proposal, we aren't in a position to be able to announce their name or finalize an agreement. We expect to do that quickly if we are selected by the department.
Hey.
Thank you, Aaron. Mike?
I got to respond. Hang on. Hello?
Yeah, so this is Riverside. So to address the grocer question, we have had several conversations with local groups who have expressed interest. We've also toured as well. We received a lot of positive feedback about the overall expansiveness of the space. To our knowledge, having 10,000 square feet up to kind of 25,000 square feet is something that's very unique to the corridor. So we received good feedback there. The ability for new vertical connections and staircases and some of the other aspects that we showed in the imagery have been very well received. Some of the other feedback that we did get was that the on-site parking was viewed as absolutely critical. So in our plan, we would expect that some portion of the stalls that we discussed would be shared with not only that grocery use, but then also the 80,000 square feet overall of publicly available retail that we've described. So I think some of the other things that came up was loading off of Marble Court. That also appeared to be satisfactory. So overall, we received some encouraging feedback. But like the other respondent had just indicated, given the preliminary nature of where we're at and this being a competitive process, we haven't had any opportunity to advance discussions other than conceptual interest.
Thanks, Mike. One of the questions is a general question that I think I can answer, and I know Brian is still on the call, so if he needs to add any more information, I welcome him to do it. There was a comment that all these proposals look great. This is a general question for everyone. How will ensure that the affordable units are integrated with the market rate apartments, meaning no separate entrances that the affordable tenants must use? Affordable units are mixed in with the market rate apartments and not clustered off together on their own floors or corners of the building, and also would have the same level of finishes. And this is something that, this initiative, we're working very closely with our partners at the Department of Housing, and that is definitely something that they would require for the affordable units, that they're well integrated and that same proportion of unit mixes in terms of the number of studios or 1 bedrooms or 2 bedrooms and such. So that's all monitored closely with our colleagues. Okay, another question is specific to landmark status. We do have 2 of the buildings that are already individually landmarked, 208 South LaSalle and 135 South LaSalle. So that question is not relevant to them. But for the building at 105 West Adams and the building at 111 West Monroe, the question is, is the development team willing to protect the building through a landmark designation process with the city of Chicago? So I would ask Celadon Partners to answer that, as well as Maven, and then Prime and Capri.
This is Maven. This is Nick Peterson. We're 100% committed and dedicated to preserving the exterior of the building. We have a significant history of doing just that with similar style buildings and similar age buildings. And our main plan is to have a historic relevance to the property.
Yeah, I mean, similar for the Celadon Blackwood team, we've gone through this process on a number of properties, including 3 in the Chicagoland area. In the past couple of years, this is already an orange category orange property, and the process will be easy. We have a locally based consulting group that works through the the part 2 process, which we would start immediately upon selection.
Yeah, on behalf of Prime Capri, the 111 West Monroe building, the center building is already designated orange, and we're planning to complete the application to put it on the National Park Service as a historic landmark. We've already had preliminary conversations with the city landmark group, and as well as the state SHPO office down in Springfield, and have started the process to landmark the project. And as you mentioned, Cindy, 208 South LaSalle is already landmarked as well.
Great. Thank you so much for your time. I know we're over, and we've done a really good job answering a lot of the questions. 36 questions have been answered, answered. And so we'll follow up if necessary with an FAQ because there's a lot of repetitious questions. So I just want to thank everyone again for participating, for the teams, for proposing these really exciting adaptive reuse projects. And I do want to thank everyone who has attended the webinar as well, and for your interest and your questions. I do want to explain the next steps. We're continuing to evaluate the proposals. Oh, sorry, my cat is here. We're continuing to evaluate the proposals together with the Department of Housing, and we do hope to select up to 3 finalist teams to continue into the next round of negotiations, and we would then have to undergo an underwriting process, which takes a few months, and then once terms are finalized and we're ready to then we've done all of the thorough vetting and reviewing of the entire proposals, then we would still need to go to CDC, and then also City Council would need to review and vote on any redevelopment agreements as typical for our any city financial assistance projects. So that hopefully answers a lot of people's questions. There were many questions about that. And again, I want to thank everyone who participated in the webinar today. Thank you to Emily, who's been co-managing this initiative with me, Emily Thrun. And I know that we've been working closely with of course, our leadership at the Department of Planning and Development and Department of Housing. So thank you for joining us. We're very excited about this.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, Cindy.
Thanks, Cindy, and everybody else.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, Cindy.